Maximum News, Starfield. Oh my god. So I remember back in 2021 when they showed us that Starfield trailer, and it said on the spaceship panel 11/11/22, and then when Todd Howard was asked about it afterward, he's like, "Yeah, no, seems like a pretty firm release date to me." Well, now
it's written in ink. It's written in ink, my friend, in ink.
Yes, well, in like digital ink.
It can't be erased. It's on. Well, it turns out that
it's a lie. It's just like the cake, and it's releasing 10 months later than intended. Syb, obviously, well, actually, you know what? We'll get into the discussion for a second in case somehow you guys are not in the loop. Syb, why don't you tell them what happened this last week?
So we got the big reveal. The release date for Starfield is in September, on September 6th. And if you're reading that as an American calendar, yes, that reads 69. So I think there's some kind of like shenanigans going on there between between Nexus mods. They've finally infected the Bethesda studio. That's what I'm thinking. That's my story. I'm sticking with it.
It's signaling to the NSFW modders on Nexus mods. Yes.
Yep. They're like, go nuts, and so
no pun intended. Please continue.
So it was a trailer. We were expecting an announcement for a showcase, not then at the showcase they would do the release time. And I personally think that that's probably what they should have stuck with, unless they were so worried about people thinking that when the game did pop out at the showcase, like, why is it not X number of like days away, right? Mm-hmm. Like why isn't it like next week or something like that? So and again, that's fine. That's something that happens. It's a delay, right? And
but okay, normally,
I'm struggling with the delay because Microsoft promised, not Bethesda, but Microsoft promised that the delay wouldn't be more than 6 months. Yeah. Wouldn't be more than 6 months into 2023, and now it was past it. They've almost was a full year behind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what the hell's going on?
Well, I think that they just ran into more bugs than they either ran into more bugs or they decided to crush more bugs. If the game comes out and it's as buggy as Fallout 4 or
Skyrim or any game by them
was on release, I am going to have some serious issues. But the bugs, like, for a long time, Skyrim bugs didn't bother people. They laughed it off. And it was that laughing it off that created a false sense of security, so that when 76 came out, everybody kind of lost their crap, and Bethesda was like, "But it's a bug. It's funny," and people were not happy. And maybe that's a change into the times, it's a change into the gamers, or what have you. But yeah, it's a ways away. I'm not happy with where it's at. I would have preferred it in the fall, like late fall, than in the early, super early fall or late summer.
Yeah.
Just for timing wise, it's hard to like kind of, it's going to be really hard for me to sink my teeth into it. Not as much as if they had released it in the middle of summer though. Mm-hmm. So there is that.
I'm kind of right there with you, dude. Like, there's good things. There's a bunch of good ways of looking at this. For me, it just gives me more time to get to a whole bunch of other games that I got to do specifically for my channel. I barely have enough time as it is, and if Starfield were to come out earlier, it would have been a problem. It would have been a lovely problem, but whatever. And also, what are gamers always saying? More time for the developers so that they can release games that are finished. Fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just, what is going on with this game behind the scenes that they were so sure that they were going to be able to release it in November of 2022, and then they're delaying it almost a full year? I hope it's just the bugs, like you're saying.
I really do think that it's the bugs. I really do think that they had some criticism come in saying that, you know, this isn't that, that's not this. There's all these problems. If you release it here, you're going to get buzzed by them. And I think that was the primary thing, because like, or perhaps they wanted to brush up or like there was some comment, and I hope this is not the case. There was some comments about the flight system not being that good.
Huh.
The flight system was originally shown off as very Mech Warrior like, and for those of you who don't know what Mech Warrior is, it's like you're flying these you're piloting these gigantic walking mechs that don't turn on a dime. They don't reload on a dime. They can, you know, if you alpha strike firing, meaning that you fire all your weapons, you basically like put yourself into an overheat and you're powered down for like 30 seconds. But you're in a literal walking enormous building that has like guns out of every inch and cranny of it. So it is one of those things where, like, you know, that's cool. I actually like that. It's so much more methodical. It's so much more, you know, you
Intense.
go in, you know, you can take hits, but then you know you can finish somebody off in an alpha strike, even if it puts you into heat down. You know, that's fine. I don't like the way that the MechWarrior Online mechanic has gone, which is where I would worry that they are wanting to put the ship combat in that it's whoever fires the button first.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there's a lot of people who like Twitch-based shooters and sniper rifles, and they think that, you know, whoever can fire the bullet first is a better player. But I like, chess is there for a reason, and I personally prefer a long combat thing. People talk about bullet sponges, and I've always been of the opinion that I think bullet sponges are fine when the fights are interesting and dynamic. And a fight versus too slow moving, or like sort of like the original kind of concept behind like Star Trek flagship fighting.
Yeah.
Starship flagship fighting was like two battleships duking it out. That's not going to be a 15-second fight. That is going to be a 15-hour fight. That is going to be your cycling certain weapons now so that you can finish them out. Now, obviously, I don't want fights that last 15 hours, but I'm just saying that's the difference, right? Like it's the going for the combat that is slow, the combat that is meaningful, the combat that has, like, you know, choices and consequences that you can feel, that you have time to feel, versus like something that is, you know, maybe even like a little bit like The Expanse, where it's like everybody's got the railgun and it's whoever fires the first railgun is a winner. You know, and because the railgun's moving at like, you know, quarter speed of light, and boom, just like gone. And like, you know, and if that's the case, I really don't like that. There is good strategy behind it. Obviously, the Expanse show is amazing. The combat is really cool, but it's not as interesting. It is certainly nail biting and could certainly be nail biting, but it's not as interesting to me. So if that's what they've done and they've redesigned the whole ship combat, that's concerning to me, because originally, like, if you watch the newest footage that came out on Monday, if you're watching the brand new footage, you will see the player character being very agile, very quick, fast firing, fairly twitchy, which makes sense because they're a person running around on a battlefield that's got jump jets. And the initial jump jets that we saw in the first trailer, I would say this has evolved quite significantly, because not only can you jump and move, now you can like sideways like thrust and stuff like that, and that opens up like a lot more faster paced like person combat. And that makes sense. Whereas like I prefer like slower ship combat, and I know those are two completely different things, but I think this is where they fit. But I'm hoping that they haven't retooled the ship combat.
No, I don't. But
I don't think so, because I think that so all of the negative articles came from people and journalists and companies that don't know a video game from a hole in the face.
Yeah.
And have no skill in any video game whatsoever, and they complained about it looking like it was a little slow and too methodical. And they're like, we want to like, just you want to blast and explode things. And it's like, thanks. I would really rather not have us, have the video game, be something that EA would have put out. I prefer something that's got, a little bit more flavor to it. So that's the only concern that I have. And the only thing that really wasn't super answered by what we saw in the trailers. We saw in the trailer some story hinting stuff that made the game look like a cross between Interstellar, the movie, and
which is fun. I like that.
Interstellar and Horizon, which are two really good movies.
Yeah.
And if that's the kind of feel that we're getting from the game, I think that's fine. I think that's great. I'm interested in that as a generalized concept. I think this is probably a really good direction that it's going in. But as far as the delay, I think that it just basically boils down to timing and bugs and wanting to iron things out. Now, if this game is what they're promising and is, if you can read between the lines and it is feeling and looking like that thing that we have been wanting for a really, really long time, then in my humble opinion, I do think that this is going to be one of the best games ever made. And if it is bug free, it'll be probably one of the best released games, like vanilla released version games ever. Yeah. If they've managed to string together all of the stuff, especially the I know it's not procedural, they don't like using that word, but
they don't.
Well, no, because it has some bad connotations now.
It's sure, because of the whole No Man's Sky thing. Yeah.
Yeah, No Man's Sky, and then but you didn't actually do anything. Now, No Man's Sky, like I played it recently, and I check in on it every once in a while, just like I check in on 76 every once in a while, because I want to see how dedicated the companies are to fixing their mistake. And I will say that with 76, that the game is 100%, like 500% better than what it was on release.
Same with No Man's Sky.
The game has interesting story. It has very interesting encounters. It's not like Skyrim where, once you've played it for like 200-300 hours, you kind of know all of the encounters. It's like in this game, the encounters keep coming differently. And that's not my opinion. That's from people that I've talked to. And they said that it's been getting better and better and better with each thing. So again, I don't know because I didn't sink 300 hours into it. But 76 appears to be much, 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 much better.
Yeah.
And if they have taken that as a generalized format and have been able to, because this is the new engine and that game is still running on the old engine, including the old AI engine and the old random encounter generator thing, if that's all still running on the 1.5 version of what it was, and this is the 3.0 version of what it is, which is what I've been told is basically the concept behind it, then we're looking at, a truly next-gen experience as far as like open content, going to worlds, seeing things and having different experiences constantly.
I have no doubt that it's going to end up like that, whether it's at release or not, but it's just with the way the gaming landscape is now, I just wonder if, especially with what happened with 76, whether or not if Starfield releases in a broken state, how much that's going to affect its true potential long term. It will get there if it doesn't release in a great state, but obviously we would prefer if it release completed. And I hope, like you said, Syb, that is what they're focusing in on. But given how much longer it's taken, I think we have reason to believe that maybe they're not telling us one or two things, especially because well, what if they use the excuse, well, we want to avoid some of the bigger games. Well, you are releasing next to Spider-Man. Actually, scratch that. I don't remember if Spider-Man 2 is coming in September. My bad. Anyways, you guys get the point. Is there something that we didn't cover in regards to Starfield and like the announcement for the showcase and the actual release date that we missed? Please let us know in the comment section below.
June 11th?
Yes, that's when it's coming. Yeah. And yes, you're damn right we're going to be covering that on the Triple S League and on the Maximum News Show. All right, let's move beyond that to some good news. Good news and somewhat sad simultaneously. So, The Last of Us, the last episode just premiered. Syb, I finished watching it. It's sad because the show has been... Sorry? Go ahead.
I glanced on Twitter, and I saw like a few 100,000 tweets about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not clicking on any of those.
What do you mean? Like, you just expecting them to all be toxic?
Yeah, it's apparently it's trending like super huge, and everybody's like, oh my god. So yeah, I don't want to know if that, like, I didn't want to spoil myself at the moment whether, you know, why that was that way. So I was like, no.
We'll talk about this. You know what happens at the end of The Last of Us, like the game, right?
Well, is that where they finished it?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. They put the entire game into just a single season?
Yep. Ooh. Yeah, pretty much. And of all the episodes, aside from maybe episode 7, which is when they did the DLC, this one is probably the closest to the actual stuff that happens in the game.
Yeah.
To its benefit and its detriment. Out of all the 9 episodes, this is probably my third least favorite. But as I have repeated many, many times over the last 9 weeks that I've been reviewing this show, there's not an episode that I dislike. The one episode that I like the least, episode 2, I give a 7 out of 10 overall. But I like that episode, and that episode has 8 or 9 out of 10 moments throughout it. Saying that this is like my third least favorite makes it like an 8 out of 10 overall. And like the stuff that they did add here and there is pretty cool, but for the most part, it is just a direct copy of the ending of The Last of Us from the game. It has the certain long-necked animal, and it's great. And there's the whole stuff with Joel at the end, and people who have played the game know exactly what I mean. Yeah, handled really well. Let's see. Let me just think. I would say that for me, maybe for other people, the episode might rank a little bit higher, specifically for people that never played the game. For you and I, Syb, we knew how the game ended almost a decade ago. And the novelty and the magic of the stuff that happens at the end of the game might not have hit me as much as it might have been other people. I'm very curious, actually. I don't think I've ever said this in my life. I'm very curious to read some of those tweets just to see how people who have never played the game reacted. But yeah, for me, like seeing it happen, I knew what was going to happen, and it didn't really affect me as much as it did back then. But it didn't affect me negatively or positively. It just was what it was. Hopefully that makes sense. So now that the season is done, what do I have to say overall? I'm not sure if it's as good as Arcane. I'm not sure if it's as even a video game adaptation as Arcane was. But damn, Syb, does it come close. And I'll go as far as to say this. This first season of The Last of Us was so good that it did what I thought was going to be impossible. It rekindled my love for The Last of Us franchise. And I thought that would have been impossible after what happened in Last of Us Part 2. But seeing what they did, how they chose to adapt the game, what stuff they kept, what stuff they changed, what stuff they got rid of, it makes me hopeful that when Season 2 comes around, that they will structure what happens differently. Because while some people have problems with what happened, I'm not one of those people. I have no problem with what happened in Last of Us Part 2. I have a problem with how it happened, when certain things happened, and how like a lot of characters got short-shifted as far as character development goes. Seeing what they did here makes me very hopeful.
And just good writing. But again, yes, I agree. Like, I think I haven't been able to see it yet, but what you're saying is really important, because if they've managed to take that and improve upon it to this point, then hopefully they will do the same and
elevate
flesh out, and elevate the continuation of it. And I think that's really important that happens, because we want that to happen. We want we want our things to grow and improve within the confines of expectation and honoring the original content, because it's not fun when you look at one of the best examples is when you look at Star Trek, right?
Sure.
It's like in Star Trek, you had a bumbling, difficult to get along with officer, and Geordi wanted him out. He was just done with having to deal with him because he didn't like him and he was just rubbing the wrong way. And Picard said, no, you get in there and you learn how to deal with somebody that you don't necessarily like, agree with, or understand, any combination of those things. And then with the new show, you have a show where somebody is like that. Again, basically the exact same character, one of the new shows, not the Picard, but you have this other show where they have that same kind of character where he's a bumbling, difficult to get along with person. And they basically like laugh at him, antagonize him. And then once he dies, they basically dance on his grave. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good elevation. That's not good. That's not taking the original story and sticking with it. That's not honoring the lessons from the original thing. All those wonderful things that you get that makes a story worth listening to and telling and playing and that kind of stuff. And you had that with the first one for sure. With Last of Us 1, the amount of impact that had on culture, on just really like waking people up and seeing that, games are a story medium, and going there, and that's so cool, because the biggest thing that I remember from it was how much of an impact it had on people who didn't understand what gaming was at all. They still thought it was like, are you playing the Mario Brothers and the blocks with the falling blocks and the thing? And it's like 2018, and you're like,
why you sound like Bill Cosby when you did that?
Because in my head, old crazy person, right?
Right.
That's the correlation there, and that's the correlation that you get with a lot of people who didn't understand it. But when that game came out, I distinctly remember all the Fine Brothers, like all the way that they covered it, a whole bunch of other YouTube channels where the way that they covered it, going way back in YouTube's past. It's like you saw the reaction, you saw their interaction. And you went, wow, that's so cool. And from both a perspective in the gaming industry and then as a narrative perspective, it was just such a great improvement. Not that other games hadn't done that up to that point, but it's worth noting how the special case that this one was. And so that's where we take that, we go, we treasure that as an experience, and we go, we really want to see them do that, because the second game, in my opinion, was terrible. And I want to see them fix that, because the IP and the fans deserve better.
Yeah,
they deserve their respect. And if you can't give them the respect as a creator, then you should just really step out of the way and let somebody else get into it.
Yeah, or just co-write it, which I think really helped with season 1, where it wasn't just Neil Druckmann, it was Neil and Craig. And that helped out a lot. Yeah. So, guys, what did you think of the last episode of The Last of Us? Are you sad to see it go? If you are, just keep in mind that just try to hold on to the fact that this is one of the first great adaptations, and just treasure it, because there's a possibility that when season 2 comes around, it might mess everything up. But let's hope not. But yeah, just let us know what you thought in the comment section below. And, be constructive and kind. All right. Next topic. Dead Island 2. I don't care about this game. I didn't.
I did not care about this game either.
Yeah.
Did you know? So Dead Island 1 was a very long time ago. Again, in around the same time as Last of Us. And it had one of the most heartbreaking, most difficult trailers to watch.
Yeah.
About what a real zombie apocalypse feels like
In reverse.
And it was just this heart-stopping, agonizing thing. That was amazing. Then the Dead Island came out, and it was really decent. Then they came out with a whole bunch of garbage. Yeah. They had a Dead Island MOBA. Bet y'all didn't remember that.
I did not know that. Now I just lost a little bit of my faith in humanity when you said that. Oh my god.
It was absolutely terrible. Then they had some other project and things were floundering, but then they announced the second game, in the main series, because obviously they had a bunch of other ones and they all failed miserably. But they finally had the next thing, and they put out a trailer, and we watched the trailer and we're like, wow, that was crazy. Not nearly as good as the first one, but it's kind of crazy and all over the place, but it's fine, whatever. And then we waited. And then we waited. And then we waited.
Okay.
And then we waited.
And then we kept being told that it's still being worked on. It's like, yeah, but who? And it keeps switching development studios. Saib, do you remember when the first trailer, like the announcement trailer for Dead Island 2 came out?
I can't remember when it came out.
2014.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was before the 2015 time period, but it's like they're almost a decade away from that trailer announcement, which is never, ever, 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 ever good.
Except in the case of The Last Guardian, which ended up being great, but
Yeah. But I mean, we're gonna it's gonna be this. It's gonna be another game that we're gonna talk about here in a little bit. It's gonna be all these games that you've lost sight of things just so badly. It's not like Bethesda where we're not gonna get you. This is gonna be well over it's gonna be a long time between Skyrim and the next Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's actually pretty they haven't been working on the same project. They've been working on they made Fallout 4. They had a hand in Fallout 76, about 50% there. And again, there's some people who argue at this point ZeniMax Studio was the primary studio behind the leadership of that.
Yes.
And again, some people deny that. They go, no, what they did with Bethesda. And it's like please just take a minute to look at the credits. And it's just so easy. Just look at the credits, please. Again, they were working on this other stuff. They've been working on things, and obviously they messed up, but that's not true anymore.
Anyways, Dead Island 2. Yeah. So, but because of the whole delay and not knowing what the heck is going on, the only capacity that me and a lot of people cared about Dead Island 2 was just the phenomenon of it and what was going on with it. It's sort of like Half-Life 3 in a way, but on a much lower scale. But this past week, Saib, they released a gameplay trailer for Dead Island 2. And while I won't say that I'm going to run out to play it, because, as we were saying before, we already have enough games that we got to cover for Triple S League and my channel, the gameplay looks pretty good. Highly detailed environments. The contrast between the green and the expensive neighborhoods of LA contrasted with the death and decay of the zombie apocalypse, it was stunning in a couple different ways. Different character builds, different ways of approaching combat. You can go stealth, you can go full on melee, you can go in all guns blazing. And the gun variety, the combat and the gun variety, these were the two things that really stood out to me. You can use Wolverine claws and then stab somebody through the face with them, living your Wolverine fantasy before the Insomniac game comes out. Explosive hammers. Yes, that's an actual thing. And my favorite weapon, I'm totally using this if I ever play the game, is a katana, I think. But they have little tiny flamethrowers attached to the blade to heat it up, so that way when you cut through them, it's like a cauterizing or something, so it's kind of like a bootleg lightsaber. And then when you're going around killing and kicking the crap out of these zombies, it looks gloriously violent.
Yeah. It's very Doom-like, right? Like
yes.
the punching through skulls and the ripping off of arms and the crazy stuff.
It's
and
that
all
exact same type of joy.
Yeah. And that looks great. And the fact that, and again, I got to give them credit for this, because we haven't seen this since I think one game that came out, but it was just it was like largely just a disaster. From everything else. I might be remembering things wrong, but in this game you can shoot zombies' legs off.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that's pretty cool. That's pretty darn cool. I think that's great. I am liking that. That sounds amazing, and that looks amazing. And again, my only regret on this title is, because it looks phenomenal, is the fact that it's first person.
Yeah.
They got all this cool stuff. They have this amazing protagonist you can play, but you've got just the first person thing. It just throws it off so much for me, partially because I'm huge into the physics, and you can do a drop kick attack in this game that looks amazing until you know how the camera and the head is functioning there. Because, of course, if you go to do a drop kick, you're not going to be looking down your body at exactly a 45-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not a thing in reality, And then when the character hits the ground, the head doesn't actually hit the ground. It stays at about the 3.5 foot height.
Mm-hmm.
So all I could think about in my head is that this person has this rubberized neck that just hovers in basically the same location all the time, and their body's doing all this stuff, and their head's just attached to their body through this long Stretch Armstrong style neck, where his head and his body is just going all over the place, but the head's just staying there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hilarious concept to me. I don't know if anybody else sees it that way, but it throws me off. Again, this was never designed as anything but a first person game, so I got no beef. It's just I feel that it would have been great to have that third person in, because the world looks so cool, right?
Yeah. Just being able to customize your character and see what it looks like from the outside, which you can. It's weird, isn't it? You can customize the way your character looks, but most of the time when you're not in a cutscene, you don't know what they look like.
Yeah,
it's too bad. Hopefully, if this game really takes off and develops a decent modding community that can provide something like that. But yeah, I'm surprised. Hopefully this will be another exception, like the aforementioned Last Guardian, where a game is in development hell, but actually manages to come out in a really interesting and entertaining way. Not everybody shares that opinion about the Last Guardian, but there are a lot of people that do. And coming out in April. And there's not really a whole lot going on during that time? Maybe I'll check it out.
Well, it's sort of, it is sort of quiet-ish, I wouldn't say. But again, I just the guts, the gore, the whole concept of the game, the tools, the weapons. By the way, I've used an exploding hammer before, and they are about as fun as you would think.
In real life?
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing?
That's a thing. They've got these, it's for so you load this charge into it, and it's for pounding nails into concrete. Typically. And I got to use, I saw one and I was like, that looks cool. And they're like, you want to try it? And I'm like, yes, please. So yeah, not an expert with it or anything. Don't have my own, but have experienced it and got to say, pretty darn cool, honestly. So yeah. And just the game, again, it does look awesome. If this is true and they really have made this much of progress on it, I would say that it would that it's worth the wait, in the sense that I'm glad they finally did it right, and that we finally have something good to look forward to.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's encouraging.
It is encouraging.
And, as Saib always says, don't pre-order. And it's not like we've never seen really, really cool trailers for games that turn out less so. Cyberpunk 2077, anybody? But we'll see. And, if it turns out great, I might pick it up. Because, like you said, April's not looking that packed at the moment. All right, next one. Oh, well, I might just ruin my entire argument. Because the next game we're talking about, I might play well into April. Because... RE4, Resident Evil 4 Remake, dropped a demo this past week. And Saib, it's pretty good. Did you play it?
I was watching, no, but I was watching a ton of people on our Discord play through it because it's not a long demo. It's only like
20 minutes.
Yeah, you can clear it. If you're moving fast, you can clear it in like 10 minutes or so. So I was watching it. I was really impressed. Visual quality looks great. Glad they've been keeping up with that. The whole experience, I would say, pretty top notch. Love the camera, love the way that the combat goes. I think that this is going to be an absolute slammer. The only thing that I'm hoping that the AI is like smart all the way through for both you, like for the companion characters and yourself as well. Yeah. That's the only thing that I hope that they add to, because nothing removes me from the immersion fast enough when somebody, like when you got like a companion or NPC character and they're like stuck on a thing. And it was really bad in that original version. In the original game, it was like pulling teeth.
Right, but when she wasn't stuck on anything,
yeah,
it actually worked out pretty well. I would consider RE4 to be one of the examples of a game with an escort quest done right.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah. And
like, I think Last of Us 1 gets the tag for probably the greatest like escort mechanics and like AI.
Yes,
because Ellie's actually really useful. She does things, whereas in Resident Evil 4 it was like bashing your head against the wall sometimes, and most of the time the easiest thing to do, which I thought was always funny, was to like put her in a trash can.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Where's your head going at? I'm like, put her in a trash can.
Hey, look, Saib, I can only handle help me, Leon, like for the 100th time before I start to lose my mind. And look, it looks for like, I think it's take it to the bank. She's going to be a whole lot better in the remake than she was in the original game. Yeah. Not just in terms of character, but in terms of her usefulness as an NPC and her usefulness in regards to the story. But yes, echoing all your sentiments, the game looks fantastic. The RE engine that they've been using for the last several games, it's really gotten a whole lot better and sort of closing the gap between some things looking really, really good and other things looking like total crap, in my opinion. Like, remember Mia's hair from RE7, anybody? That's like the worst example. But with the RE4 demo, if it's indicative of the rest of the game, everything looks really, really detailed, really, really smooth. Leon's hair looks gorgeous as ever. And yeah, like the combat feels great. The opening level, even though it's virtually identical in shape, structure, and gameplay as it was to the original, the new color palette, the higher fidelity graphics, and the horror vibe make everything feel really, really fresh. And the gunplay feels great. And most importantly, Saib, they still have the bowling line in there. I was wondering if he was going to say it, man. Where does everybody go bowling? And they kept the line, and Resident Evil fans rejoiced everywhere. That was an insta-buy for me. Now I just got to know if Salazar goes, Mr. Kennedy, because that's, that gets me every time I hear him say it. It just amuses me. What can I say? And yeah, everybody I know who grew up with RE4, especially my favorite YouTuber is a guy named Vash12349. He grew up with it. He loves it. And a whole bunch of other people do too. So it's looking like another win for Capcom. But we'll know for sure when the game releases in a couple of weeks. Really excited. I love it. All right. Got a couple of pieces of bad news, unfortunately. We talked last week about Suicide Squad. kill the Justice League. Maybe this game is for somebody. People that enjoy like looter shooters and don't mind it like being in this game, but just with the Suicide Squad skin. For other people, including myself and Syb, we want something more than that. We want something that sort of echoes the type of gameplay that we got from the people that made this game, Rocksteady. They're the people that made the Batman Arkham games. Something like that really makes us feel like we're inhabiting the characters instead of them just, all shooting guns and basically being indistinguishable aside from their different aesthetic. If you're going to play as King Shark, make him do King Shark things. If you're going to play as Captain Boomerang, make him use his boomerang more. That sort of thing, right? And that was the sentiment that people sort of expressed when they dropped that gameplay trailer during the Sony State of Play. Lots of downvotes, lots of negative comments. And people seem to think that... So there was a delay for this game that was announced this past week, and people seem to think that the delay is because of that backlash. I forgive you if you think that's the case, but keep in mind, guys, this game is very, very late in development. They were going to release it. There's no way that they're delaying this so that they can change things according to the feedback that people are offering. No, the best they can do at this point is just offer up polish. And also, keep in mind when they were originally going to release this game. It was going to be in April, May? What games are coming out around that time? Heavy hitters, right? You got The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is going to be huge. Diablo 4, which, even though it's Blizzard, it's Diablo 4. It's Diablo. And then Final Fantasy 16, the only thing that's keeping Square Enix alive at the moment. So, of course, they want to avoid that. And it gives them extra time to polish it. So, unfortunately, while it's not going to change to the way that, most gamers might like, maybe it'll be a more polished version and will appeal a little bit more to people that were into this thing anyways. But yeah, just clarifying that a little bit. Syb, any thoughts?
I hope that they put in, we talked a little bit about Mystery Men last week. I hope they put in Mystery Men characters into this game, specifically the Sphinx. I think they should put him in as a hero slash because all the heroes are villains in this one for some weird reason. But I want him as one of the first villains to be put into the game because his power of anti-gun, in which he slices all guns in half, I think that would fix their game for the vast majority.
Yeah,
I think that would improve every aspect of this game, because why is Boomerang, who has the powers of a boomerang, why on earth does he have a gun that doesn't fire boomeranging shots? To me, if you're like, oh, we have to put the guns in there, it's like, okay, that doesn't make any sense because, this is a superhero game, not a shooter, but all right, we'll put in, hey, wait a second, we got this guy, Boomerang, what if we give him a gun that fires like titanium boomerangs? And that's a whole part of his gameplay, is like firing these like boomeranging weapons. No, we want a gun that fires from point A to point B. That's it. No special things. We just want guns. People like guns. That's the way that you want to play the game, is with guns. I don't understand what they did here. It makes no sense to me.
It seems completely antithetical and completely opposite something you would expect from that studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
to me, this entire thing comes off as moronic. And just this like ridiculous cash grabby kind of like, hey, let's do the whole live service thing. What do we put in live service things? I don't know. What does Valorant have? Oh, Valorant has guns. Oh, let's put in guns.
I just thought, what game character they should include from Mystery Men in that game is the Invisible Boy. And people have never seen Mystery Men who don't know the Invisible Boy. He only turns invisible when you're not looking at him. So put him in the game and then save everybody from looking at this game. I don't know why that makes me crack up so much.
I could turn invisible too when nobody's looking at him. You know, when nobody's looking at me and there's nothing recording me, it's like I'm not even there. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, people pretend like I'm not even there even when they're looking at. No, I'm just kidding. Let's try to score pity points, Max. Yes, no, I'm kidding. All right, yeah. Moving on to the next little bit of. Oh, this is just the ongoing depressive saga. I don't know what's going on with Beyond Good and Evil 2. Do I want to know?
You don't want to know. This is another game that, unfortunately, like, and again, this is just like, I wish developers would stop doing this. I really, really do. It's one thing to put out something at the GDC where you're recruiting people to help you work on a project. It's one thing to do that. And even that has hurt people before, CDPR included. But the idea of putting out this full on, what was it, like 8-10 minute trailer, like movie quality trailer, of Beyond Good and Evil 1 and 2, Beyond Good and Evil 2, and then they went, like, from my perspective looking at it, it's like they said, hey, we want to do this. They spent a year making the trailer, they put out the trailer, and then 6 months later they got working on the game. Like, what were you thinking? This game's been in development for
the longest,
over a decade now.
Yeah, longer than Duke Nukem Forever.
And, like, are you still working with the same engine? Like, are you working from an engine that was designed over, 15 years ago? Because, I mean, maybe 12 at the best, right? Like, because that's the way it works, right? You get your hands on an engine. That engine is designed for, an upcoming or the current generation of technology that lasts for about 4 to 5 years. And they started working on it. And yeah, you have that window, 2-year leeway, like, after the fact and whatnot. But I mean, it's like, I can't see this game being good in its current state because the technology has just shifted so much. And the fact that, again, that they were like, I remember seeing early footage on this thing, and I thought it kind of felt a little bit like this, like, cross
too good to be true,
like a Fortnite-y kind of like thing, and
really
not like Fortnite gameplay, like Fortnite like level graphics, like early generation, right?
Are you talking about the stuff that we got back in 2017?
No, I think it was even before that.
Yeah, probably, because, like, yeah. But sorry, continue.
It was whatever guy was sitting on a thing and showing off the gameplay, and it was like, I wasn't impressed by the gameplay, and he was standing on top of this tower, and he's like, "Look, I get a rocket pack, and I can fly around in a circle." It's like, you didn't show off anything worthwhile. Like, I wouldn't have even, if that was all you were going to show off, I would have said, "Don't show it." But I just, like, again, the game had it had a lot of potential, and it looked really interesting a decade ago. Like, again, if you're a 14-year-old and you're like, wow, this game looks so cool, and then when it comes out, you're 25 and you have 2 kids, hey, who's the market? Like, where's the market? What idiot thought that was a good marketing ploy? Hey, let's advertise a product that's not going to be out for over a decade.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
It's Ubisoft for you, man.
Like, yeah. So that happened. It's in the studio's in bad shape. They've lost many people to people quitting, people getting fired, people getting ousted because of, supposedly, air quotes, allegedly because of allegations, allegedly because of some police stuff going on, some potentially some fraud. Again, all these are allegations. And it's because I think they Ubisoft is a mess in general right now. And I just like, I look at this, I hear all this news, and I'm like, this game can't be in a good way, and I want to contrast that with Greg Street, I believe is his proper name. Most people know him as Ghostcrawler. Ghostcrawler was behind some of the greatest games in history. Key amongst them, obviously the biggest, is the highest point in World of Warcraft's run for popularity and player base. He was also behind a couple other like older games. He stepped down from his position where he was working for Riot, working on their next big MMO that was based, as I understand it, is based off of Arcane, the TV show.
Yeah.
So the obviously, and that's obviously built off of League, but they have this new world that they're working on. They're fleshing it out. He quit this week. He quit Riot. Unfortunately, due to the fact that his father and his brother passed away in the same. It might have been an accident or something like that. Anyways, it's pretty brutal for him. Obviously, he's nobody deserves to have to bury a brother at even at his age, which I mean he's no spring chicken, but to have to bury somebody before they're retired is never fun. So yeah, he had to step down, and in that he went on to Twitter to say that people, please don't worry about the game. My primary job, in the company was to build a team that could handle the creation of this game. Yeah, he said that very specifically. He was hired to create he was in charge of creating the team. And he had done that, and he feels that the team is in excellent health, and they're now moving into they're well into like full production now. And that's good. And so when you look at a situation like that, where this guy, key figure, has built a team, has designed a team, he's trained them, he's the coach essentially, he's got them together, they're working great. And then he goes, all right, there's your goal, go for it. I'm going to step back and step down from this position now. It's like, yeah, some bad things can happen when that happens, but that's often a good way of doing it, right? Because you want to get a team together that can handle the intricacies of an evolving market. And that's what he's done. And that's what we're hoping to see. However, that's not the case in Beyond Good and Evil. We don't have a solid team that's been put together and that has, created many other past projects. They've been falling apart for years now, probably because of the fact that most developers don't want to work on a project for a decade and not release anything. Like, most people don't want to do that. In the rare cases that there's a game like that succeeds, that's great. But for the most part, developers want to, if they have a game that's a long haul project and it's going to be a very, very long time, they would prefer to just involve the community and have have some kind of like a beta or an open beta where they're making progress and people can see the progress that they're making constantly. But that's not what you have here. You have a game that's been worked on behind closed doors for over a decade, and it was like they promised the moon originally. That trailer that we saw, people were like, "Oh yeah, that's going to be the level of graphics." It's like, no, it's not. Like, you could barely get there with today's technology working off of engine. So they're going to just shift all of their work onto this new engine. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. A project has to be below 7 years. Every time you get close to 7 years, you get really close to just falling out of favor, falling out of focus. Just, you're stuck with an old genre or an old, like kind of like the flavor of the month kind of thing. And it's like, if you're there and that's what you've done, and then it comes out and it's not good and it's not revolutionary and it hasn't done anything to really like amp up the quality, well, that's not going to be good. That's not going to be good, son. That's going to be a complete and total failure.
Yeah,
so
looking back on it now, like, I was excited, I guess, at the promise, but I was more naive back then. And hopefully, what they were promising, we're going to get with Starfield, save for the, surface to space traversal, but, that can be added in a mod. All right, let's finish with this thing about mundane games. Power Washer Simulator, chief among them. Why do people enjoy playing them, Syb?
So this is a question we want to pose to you guys, the listeners. We love your feedback, and this is something that I personally don't understand. I don't understand why anybody plays a mundane game. I can understand slow paced games. There's a couple of really, really, really amazing games that are like just chill games, right? Like Civilization for me is a very chill game. It's a very relaxing game.
Mm-hmm.
Dwarf, I can never say this properly. Dwarf Romantic is one of these beautiful, soft. There's no combat. There's no fighting. There's this super chill music, and you're just creating beautiful land, and it's just such a fun experience to have when you want to relax. You just want to relax.
How do you spell that?
Dwarf. These other games are where you mow lawns or you power wash something, and that's the whole game. You just mow a lawn. I don't understand those, but they're super popular right now. And again, I'm not crapping on anybody's taste, but I'm curious. What is it? Is it just the relaxation of it? And if it is, expand on it a little bit. Like tell me why. If any of you guys play games that are kind of like that centered around just like, just doing daily things, like things that you would normally do. Like I find it almost hilarious that somebody's like, hey, yeah, so I'm playing this game where I mow the lawn. Now I got to take a break from the game to go outside and mow the lawn.
Right.
I don't get it. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's me. I would love to understand why, but it was funny. I did see this article in CBS, and it looked absolutely hilarious. And I was like, yeah, that's hilarious. What's even more funny is the person who intros it. It's like this really old lady in her 60s-ish, maybe, and she's just like, video games used to be all about shooting stuff, but now you can sit back and mow the lawn. It's like,
shoot while you're mowing the lawn. Depends on what neighborhood you live in. Right. Well, I have a little bit of a theory on that. You know how some people like watching videos of people popping their pimples? It's
gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
Gross.
Yeah, but no, it's like it's trying to get. It's cleaning. It's just making everything devoid of contamination. People get a weird sense of satisfaction from that. And even more so when you're not putting in physical exertion to do it. I can imagine that doing something like mowing the lawn or tending to a garden could be zen-like if it didn't cause a lot of people physical stress. But, that's just the nature of what it's like to be human. That's my theory. But yeah, if I'm wrong, or if I'm right, or if there's an alternative theory, I, of course, would love to hear from you guys as well in the comment section below. All right.
I like Flight Simulator. Like Flight Simulator is really cool because you can fly around, and we got a couple people who play Flight Simulator in our community. Really cool, really awesome, really funny. Also can make one of the greatest blunders of being on the internet and saying, hey, I'm playing Flight Simulator. Where's your house? I'll fly by it. Which is funny because in the game they actually have like a real map, but it's not the thing you want to ask, random people on the internet. That's not that is a faux pas. But the truck driving simulator.
Yeah, people love those.
Where you simulate a drive for 8 hours of like real time. That's so weird. But please let us know. Do you play these games? Which ones do you play? Which ones would you suggest? And then let us know why you enjoy them so much, because I am super curious. I would love to know.
I know a couple of people that like the Euro Truck games. I should ask them. All right, guys, that does it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button if you like this episode, because that not only helps out this video, but it helps out all the other videos on the channel and the channel itself, and it's free and easy to do. Make sure to subscribe for more episodes of Maximum News. I want to thank Syb, as always, for his insightful knowledge and his commentary. Syb, just tell people about the main channel before we conclude, please.
Yeah, check us out on the Triple S League. We are covering a bunch of stuff. We're going to be covering, obviously, the big summer games. We have a bunch of other things up and coming. And we're, of course, going to be getting into Starfield pretty big because I really do, guys. Don't pre-order it. Don't get your hopes up. But the tech, the cool things that they're offering in this game, it's going to be cool. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and and then we've got a bunch of other things that are upcoming, big games that we're going to be seeing this year. So check us out.
Stay tuned. And you guys could just find me on all the usual forms of social media, just at Max Derrat. I'll put links to those and what Syb, the main Triple S League channel in the description box below. All right, guys, I'm out. Peace out. Stay yellow. Bye-bye.